What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, mailbag time. At John Middlekauff's the Instagram. Fire in those DMs. Get your questions answered here on the show. Very, very easy to get involved. We need your participation this summer. And DM's open for anything. Obviously football, but, fire in any other thoughts you may have. We will start with Will. Longtime listener and love the show. But I hate your opinion of the Falcons. They have whiffed on quarterbacks since Matt Ryan retired. How are they supposed to win your respect with Mariota and Desmond Ridder? You say it all the time. It's a coach and quarterback league. With that logic, I'd rather swing at Kirk Cousins than see one more game of that. You never call out other franchises who have quarterback issues. You never call them dog shit franchises. Did I say that about the Falcons? As soon as that position hits, all of our problems go away. It's a quarterback problem. The offense is stacked, and if Penix, the new pass rushers, can be decent, they will run the NFC South. I pray to God every night before I fall asleep that they finally shove it up your ass this year. You gonna let Diddy watch on that one? I would say this, that my lack of respect for the Falcons is how they run the organization. And ever since kind of the Dan Quinn, Dimitroff thing fell apart, and the Arthur Smith, Fontenot crew, and then through last year with Raheem, who everyone was bullish on and thought like, oh, he's gonna change the world. And everyone likes him. I don't know him personally, but McVay, Kyle, these people swear by him. Everyone that knows him thinks highly of him. He's a guy to root for. And then they come in, they desperately need defense. They fall in love with Michael Penix after they give Cousins $80, $90 million guaranteed. It's like that's a poorly run operation. Because if they could do it again and they knew they were going to draft Penix at 8, they could have just signed a random quarterback for $5 or $10 million and allocated those funds for Wilkins from Miami. Signed some defensive high-end players because they had a bunch of money to spend. But they fell in love with Cousins, and then their draft process was all out of whack, and then they clearly fell in love with Penix. Where Penix was not didn't need to sit. This isn't J.J. McCarthy. This is a 24-year-old kid who'd been starting in college forever. Plug-and-play guy who I'm high on. I like that player. But the previous year, you went into you're going to start Desmond Ridder? What are we doing? And you could say it's a quarterback problem. Yeah, it's a quarterback problem, but that was you're going to go into the season with him starting? I also think the 3 straight years of drafting offensive skill guys, I like Bijan Robinson. I get it. I think he could be one of the better players in the NFL. But drafting the tight end who can't block anybody, and then the next year taking Drake London, who's a good player. But it just doesn't feel like they have any organizational philosophy. Their owner is 85 years old, worth an ungodly amount of money, putting himself in the Hall of Fame, in his own Hall of Fame. He's kind of just in his own little world, who, again, everyone likes the guy. Sure, he's a great guy. But when it comes to football, I don't think it's safe to say they know what's going on. So, do I think you're a dog shit franchise? Clearly, it's a high-end, lucrative operation. Sweet stadium, some history with the franchise. But, I feel like the people driving the bus right now don't know where they're going. And someone asked, why do some teams have an identity and some teams don't? And we talked about this with the Steelers. It starts with the owner. The Eagles starts with the owner. The Ravens starts with the owner. It's pretty rare that the Crafts, I don't think really they know what's going on, but it doesn't matter. They had Bill forever, right? Then they get Vrabel, who learned under Bill. So it's I don't know. I don't know. I think you guys, now who knows? If Penix is good, like you said, maybe you'll be solid. But run the division. The reason the Bucks are good is because the Glazers we don't really know what's going on. Once upon a time, we gave it all to Gruden, and now we give it all to Jason Light. Jason Light's better than anything you got. And this is football, while it's very complicated, It's kind of important. Who's running your franchise? Like they got Baker Mayfield, but who's running the franchise? Jason Light knows what he's doing. I just feel like you guys don't know what you're doing. I mean, honestly, trading a future first round pick for a guy who, like, again, these aren't my opinions, was off boards, been well reported, texting around people. They're like, it wasn't on our board. It's like, what are we doing? How and you guys aren't good enough to take like questionable people. Hell, a couple years ago, you had the chance to take Jalen Carter, but it's like, a little too questionable. And now you're taking questionable people? Like, you haven't won shit since then. What changed? How big of an advantage, if any, is knowing the other GM in an NFL trade? I'm a huge Rams fan, and it seems like whether Les Snead is dealing with the coach or GM who previously worked for the Rams, a really good deal for the Rams seems to materialize. Getting Stafford from the Lions, the first rounder we just got from the Falcons. Now that Gladstone is in Jacksonville, if we deal with the Jags in the future, would Snead have the advantage of knowing Gladstone's tendencies or vice versa? Also, my 4 year old son is addicted to watching golf. I've never played around in my life. If you have any tips into getting him started, I'd appreciate it. Uh, I would just say take him to the driving range, get him a set of like little kids clubs, and have him go whack some balls. We'll see if he really likes it, you know. So I would do that. Get him a putter, get him like a driver, and get him like a little iron, and just take him to like a public driving range and have him go whack away. I would say on the Rams thing, you know, I would agree on the Falcons trade. I mean, that was every GM in the league would have made that trade for less need. So I don't know if they just took advantage of desperation. I mean, Raheem Morris is one of McVay's best friends. Uh, and he's a defensive guy, so clearly he wants that player. I would say on the Stafford thing, I mean they gave up two first round picks, and you know Goff obviously now would be very valuable, but at the time wasn't. But they included so they got Goff and two first round picks. You know the Lions had their choice, like the Niners and the Rams both really wanted Stafford. Both were offering two first round picks, Jimmy Garoppolo or Jared Goff, and they benefited because Holmes had been from LA or worked in LA and knew Goff. So yeah, I don't know. He just clearly all things are just working out in their favor. Now, granted, like last year, it's crazy, and this is why I think you got to be careful. And I'm guilty of this. Of this draft sucks. This draft's good. Or even my buddies in the league, like I hated this draft. I don't know what the Niners were doing there. I didn't love this. I love this. I remember last year, it's like, God, the Rams traded that much to get Braden Fisk. I remember talking to people that thought that was pretty crazy. I mean, I think that's a pretty good deal. It looks like after 1 year. So I just think we never know. You know, I think the Stafford Goff trade is just an all time win win. I mean, the Lions do not regret that. They traded Stafford, who didn't want to be there anymore. They ended up getting pick six that they turned into Gibbs and Laporta. They got Jared Goff. So I think it's kind of I think Jamison Williams too, if I remember correctly. Um, yeah, I mean I wouldn't put that one underneath the like leasing for the Rams, but I hear what you're saying. I don't know. I mean I would say Gladstone I'd want to do a deal with him because that's a pretty easy deal for the Browns to do. And I like Travis Hunter, but holy shit. I'm not a 49ers fan, but I remember you saying you would play hardball with Brock Purdy and giving him 200 plus million would be a mistake. Well, he didn't get 200 million in guarantees, but man, that contract is insane. Didn't hear any reporting about negotiations going back and forth like last year with Ayuk. It might be Monday morning quarterbacking, but it seems like was seems like not trading Ayuk was a mistake. And the Purdy contract feels risky too when the state of an unproven roster. What are the 49ers doing, and have they lost their fastball? I mean, I've said this over and over. I think they got a deal. I mean, ideally, you would have got like Baker Mayfield's contract, but it's pretty clear they were never going to accept that. And after the last 3 years of, I would say, no team had 3 consecutive years of holdouts, some years, multiple players. The Niners didn't want to deal with that. And I don't think Brock Purdy wanted to deal with that. It's why I respect Micah Parsons, who's just showing up to practices. Just makes getting everything done easier. Just show up, make the other person want to do a deal with you. I think sometimes the holding out, I'm not against holding out, but it just creates, especially in this day and age of media and social media, just such a shit show. The Ayuk thing was an embarrassment. And I think the 49ers, once they got to training camp, he could deny trades because the only way a trade would go through is he had to accept their terms. So, like, they were trading him away. And he kept saying, no, I'm not signing the Patriots. I'm not signing with the Browns. What they should have done is traded him before the draft. It was a huge mistake because by then he probably would have accepted. Once he got to training camp, he had his heels dug in, and clearly, I mean, they would have traded him at the combine, but no one will take a guy with a shattered knee. Now, I'm not saying that the deal's a disaster because he got injured. No one, you can never predict an injury. But like that was an embarrassing moment for the 49ers. It truly was. And everyone, the Mayokos, the Kawakamis, the Barros, all the guys that cover the Niners closely, I mean, well reported. That was something that made the 49ers, they didn't like that. And they've been through tough contract negotiations, but Purdy was never going to do that. I think there's a little bit of a reward for saving their ass. Now you can say, is that great business or not? I mean, but he did. And I also think this, that when you factor in that Brock Purdy got $50 million less in total guarantees than Dak Prescott, like that's a pretty big win. That's a pretty big win. Now, I'd argue that they were never going to give him Dak Prescott money, but like that contract exists. And I don't think there's much difference between the two, especially when Brock's younger and moves much better. So, yeah, I would say that in the day and age of quarterback contracts, I would say that that deal is pretty normal. Really is. Now, it's a win for Purdy. It's a ton of money, right? But I think for the 49ers, they probably at one point in time prepared, like, if this thing got ugly, we would have had to pay more. The NBA Finals are almost here, and every play could be one that changes everything. This is the NBA playoffs, where heroes rise, legacies are built, and the action never lets up. With DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, you don't just watch the madness, you live it. Back your favorite team, ride with your clutch time killer. Bet on buzzer beaters, breakout performances, and game-winning threes. From player props to same-game parlays, this is how you take your fandom to the next level. Here's what I know. I love the T-Wolves. You can get them, lines are subject to change, on DraftKings right now at plus 265 to win the series. They have experience, they have been here before, and obviously they just have a really good team who's really hot right now. If you like them to win the series, I don't hate them then to win the NBA championship at plus 550. New to the game, no sweat. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today, bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll score $300 in bonus bets. It's that easy. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets if your bets wins and you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. Crown is yours. I know you primarily cover. I hate the word cover because I'm not like a reporter. I know it's just most of you don't care about like the semantics of my job. I just watch games and give my opinions on them. I wouldn't say cover, but listen, that's maybe an insecurity of mine. I hear what you're saying, and I'm not putting it, this isn't your fault. But I'm wondering if you ever got into the NHL. With the physicality, pace of play, and effort, it seems like a sport you'd mention more in your podcast. Go Canes. I've gotten into it more the last couple years. That whatever their all-star thing, I forget the name, the Four Nations. I mean, it's that USA Canada, those two games are two of the better sporting events any sport I've seen in recent memory. I was glued. Have nothing but admiration. I think I view hockey like I do MMA. I don't really watch MMA, and I know some of you that like get all the pay-per-views. I respect the living. I couldn't have any more respect for what it takes to get in the octagon. How big of a badass all those guys are. I love Dana White. I love that operation. I admire how they handled 2020. He was the first guy to have been like, fuck this. A lot of people followed suit. And I admire a lot of things about the MMA. I don't watch it. I would say similar with hockey. Like I respect the living shit out of the players. How hard it is to play that sport. How they all are missing teeth because they're all getting pucks to the face. How tough you have to be to play hockey. But I just don't really watch. Now, I will pay a little more attention like to the Final Four here. I would love to see Edmonton win. I made a mistake. I put $1,000 at 10-1 on the Capitals. And I thought about splitting it, going 500, 500 on Edmonton. I obviously a huge regret. I wish I just would have put that on Edmonton, who was like 18-1. I think the Caps were 10-1, and your Canes just beat the shit out of them. Uh, I remember watching last year. I had the Vancouver and watching Edmonton take them down. I would love to see McDavid win it, but I don't pretend like I'm not a huge hockey guy. I just don't really. I only have so much time in my life. I spend so much time watching football in the fall and golf Thursday through Sunday, basically year round, which I consume, but definitely with football, I don't miss really many golf days, besides if I'm out playing. So I don't know. I just only have so much mental energy to put in. Doesn't mean I don't have a lot of admiration and respect for the sport. Scotland and my rival teams, Celtic. I know you're not a big soccer guy, but you're a Niner guy. I'm from Glasgow, Scotland, and my rival team, the Rangers, I'm a Celtic guy. He's talking soccer, is in the midst of a takeover from the 49er Enterprises. Curious to see if this is gaining any traction at all in the States, as it's massive news over here. The takeover should be complete soon and sadly means the Rangers might actually be good enough to compete. I suppose my question is two-parter. One, have you heard of this news at all? Two, based off your knowledge of running an NFL franchise, how would you see the enterprise running a huge European soccer team? P.S. If you get any time, read up on the Old Firm Derby, biggest and best rivalry in sports. Well, the 49ers bought years ago a franchise called Leeds. And I think they just, within the last couple months, qualified. And they had done this before for the Premier League again. They had qualified for the Premier League and been knocked down, and now they're back. And they threw a huge like parade in the area. And the 49ers have a unique setup, right? Like Howie kind of runs point on most things. It's not like he negotiates every detail of every contract, but ultimately nothing gets signed off without him. The 49ers, like John Lynch, they have a cap crew that's kind of run by Parag, who is Jed York's right hand money guy. And Parag runs point on the soccer. And I know Parag a little bit. I haven't talked to him in a while, but like Leeds was a huge passion project of his. And he used to tell me like they were a sleeping giant. And they have brought people from America to run it over there, and they've done a good job. Like they take it really, really seriously. So if he is heavily involved in this, um, I would imagine it's going to work. I would bet on it working. I think what they've tried to do is like obviously the Glazers or Stan Kroenke own some of the main teams. Like to get a main team now, you need billions of dollars. I think they have tried to like buy sleeping giants and resurrect them. Obviously, it's just cheaper to buy. It's like I remember Coward told me years ago. He's like, if you can afford it, it makes more sense to find a home that you can remodel yourself than find a home that's already been flipped and they're adding 50% to the sticker price because you're paying for their remodel then to make a profit on. And it's like, yeah, it's why the house I'm living in right now was a full gut job. But the house would have been worth double if the person before me had done what I did to it. So it actually saved me money. And I like think that I look at the way the 49ers operate, you know, they're not trying to find a deal necessarily. They're just trying to find something with a lot of upside. And the way you just described it, I would imagine is the way they viewed it. And Parag is good with money. I want to know what you think about the quarterback win stat. For example, a lot of people in the media mentions Joe Burrow beating the Chiefs when Mahomes throws two picks. But when a guy like Allen goes nuclear against the Chiefs, he just can't get it done. Should Josh play some edge rusher next year to help on defense? I think a lot of the media elites, the overeducated group that always loves any sort of a narrative to shut down because the people pushing that aren't intellectually, their capacity isn't quite on their level. And I view this as a classic. Like the media loves saying, quarterback wins are not a stat. I would agree in an individual situation. in a playoff game. You can lose a playoff. Aaron Rodgers has lost playoff games where he's played well. Earlier on in the McCarthy era, he played well in games. The defense was atrocious and they lost. That's happened. But you could not be a good quarterback over the course of 5 years and have your team not win a lot in the regular season. Now, individual playoff games, you can play crappy. One play can determine it. Josh Allen has played well in a lot of playoff games in which he's lost. Um, I would say Patrick Mahomes has played average in some games that they've won, right? So it's like, totally agree. Quarterback playoff wins shouldn't be a stat. But your win loss record as a regular season quarterback does matter, right? It just does. Like, I actually view last year with Joe Burrow winning 9 games was pretty impressive. But I hate it when people go, quarterback wins is not a stat. Well, bullshit. Over the course of multiple years, bet your ass it is. Why do we think the position's so important? Because if you're a good player, you're going to win a lot of games. I don't care how average your team is. Unless you're playing on one of the worst teams ever. Like if you put Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson on who just drafted number one, the Titans, yeah, actually, they probably would have won like 8, 9 games because they had a good defense. They would have been good. Big fan of the pod. I'm a diehard Browns fan, which sucks most of the time. But they seem to always leave you with slivers of hope. For example, this year, I don't expect them to win many games. However, there's the hope that these two rookie quarterbacks, in Gabriel and Sanders, that they could be the guy we've been searching for. But in my opinion, they have to play these guys as much as possible to figure it out. There's the answer, given that we have 2 first-rounders in the next year's draft and good talent coming in at the quarterback position. What are your thoughts on the Browns' floor and ceiling for the season? And do you think they should start one of these two rookies and forget about Flacco and Picket for 2025? I think I saw a headline today that Mary Kay, who is basically the encyclopedia and Walter Cronkite when it comes to the Browns, knows all, reported that the first team reps starting at OTAs will be Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel. My guess is that with the ones, that Joe Flacco won't get any reps with the ones during OTAs. And that's smart. He doesn't need any. All the reps should go to, because Kenny Pickett might be your starting quarterback. I don't have an issue with that. But I think Dillon Gabriel, who was drafted above Shedeur, totally get that, and Shedeur Sanders, like, give them reps right now. And then in training camp, you have some idea, bring them back, and give it a week, kind of rotate, and whoever's playing better starts getting more reps moving forward. But you could argue don't even start Joe Flacco. I think it's actually when I just came out of my mouth. I think what makes it difficult to do that, at least week 1 or week 2, is that if everyone on the team thinks he's the best quarterback, it's hard to look Myles Garrett and some other guys. I almost dropped like some other names. I'm like, yeah, Nick Chubb's not even on the team. Is Amari Cooper on the team? Has Amari Cooper signed? Did Amari Cooper sign anywhere? But some of your veteran players, they're playing their ass off. And if they think that Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders starts week 1, they're not the best quarterback, they're not going to love that. Now, you can easily do that like after a month, but I guess Amari Cooper was traded last year to the Bills, huh? But has Amari Cooper signed? Amari Cooper. Looks like he's a free agent. What a weird career he's had. Pretty underrated, actually, when you look at his stats. Do you think he's like not a bust? A lot of you guys have chimed in about my omega oils and given me different options so I don't smell like a fish. I listen to it every day. Really great stuff. I'm a little confused on the narrative that Stafford is significantly better than Purdy. Last year, Purdy and Stafford had almost identical numbers, but Stafford had 4 less picks. Stafford also has the benefit of having a better defense and healthier offense than Brock. Yet Brock and him had the same stats. Also, Brock is significantly better runner than Stafford. Everyone says they would take a 37-year-old Stafford over 25-year-old Purdy, and it truly makes no sense to me. Is it because Stafford has a ring and Purdy doesn't? Well, like for the next 5 years, you would have to take Purdy. If I had to play a big game on the road in the elements, like Purdy has been awful in rain and cold. Luckily, he plays in San Francisco and he avoids that. But that game that Stafford had against the Eagles in that snow, shitty weather, Like I have zero faith in Purdy can have that. So in a one game scenario, I would take Matt Stafford. I would also say in a one game scenario against the best competition, I would take the 37-year-old Matt Stafford. But over the contract that Purdy just got, I would give that to Purdy over giving it to Stafford over the next 4 or 5 years. Right. So I think in a short window, Matt Stafford on an individual game basis is a better player. I think Matt Stafford at times last year is a top five quarterback in the NFL. And I just don't think that about Purdy. Now, I also don't think Purdy's like the 20th quarterback, but I think Stafford's a better player. Now, if they were the same age, like Stafford is in a different universe as a talent. And if you gave, there's a reason that Kyle Shanahan wanted to trade for him when McVay ended up getting him. He wanted him. Why? Because Stafford is a special player. Now he's older and beat up, but and there's a reason they're going year to year. But I think when it just came to a one game basis, if all the marbles were on the line, there's only a couple quarterbacks in the NFL. If they're all healthy, I would want over Matt Stafford. Okay, last question. What do you think? Why do you think the NHL is always the fourth most popular North American sport? The product is clearly much better than the NBA, and the players actually care about the sports and the games. What does the NHL have to do to get more popular? We talked about this with football. Every single human I knew growing up, whether you played in high school, whether you played in junior high, whether you just played pickup, had played a little basketball. Because most people at one point in time in their life just shoot baskets, play pickup hoops, uh, watch some basketball on television. It's an easy sport to play wherever you live, right? I've only lived in one cold area place in Philly for a couple of years. Other than that, I've lived in areas that it does not snow. Arizona, Fresno, the Bay Area, Davis, San Luis Obispo. So what you play in high school, what you grow up playing in when you're young is to me what you usually gravitate toward. Usually diehard tennis people like in junior high, high school, if you play in college, probably pay attention to Wimbledon, right? Why? Because they played it. Like, why do I like football and golf? Well, I've been playing it when I was young. So I liked it. And I still like it when I'm 40, just like I'll like it when I'm 50 or 60. Where a lot of us all over the country, if you live in the South, if you live in Texas, if you live, on the West Coast, you're not in freezing cold temperatures. Where's hockey big? Michigan, Minnesota, the Dakotas, where it's freezing cold, Canada, Russia. So, like, it is a very geographically specific sport where baseball, basketball, and football are played in all those areas as well. And hockey is just not that popular, I would imagine, if you go to Texas or you go to North or South Carolina or Florida. I know they have pro teams there, but I'm just talking about, people playing. Lacrosse has become more and more popular over the last 20 years, right? But where is it the most popular? In the Northeast. So like the more and more people that are young that play directly benefit the sport on television at the highest level. And more people, way more people in America play basketball or have played basketball than have ever played hockey. So I think that's a huge, and it's specifically, it's played on ice. Where I also think like every generation now, basketball is a way bigger sport, but it also has like just massive superstars. When I was a kid, I grew up on Michael Jordan, and then we've morphed into LeBron and Steph. I mean, those are three of the biggest. I mean, Michael's in my lifetime the biggest athlete of my lifetime is Michael Jordan, and I would put Steph and LeBron on the short list, not named Michael Jordan. Tiger Woods, Tom Brady. I mean, it's just Wayne Gretzky is a very, very famous individual, but like he is by far, I would say, the most famous hockey player still to this day. There's like a Ruthian quality to him. I know Sidney's big, Ovechkin's big, McDavid's big. I don't even think they approach Wayne Gretzky. When Wayne Gretzky, when's the last time he played hockey? 20 plus years? When did he retire? Late 90s? So I think if you are going to have a lot of people that don't play you're gonna need an absolute superstar. Yeah, he retired in '99, so he hasn't played in 25 years. I mean, look at Michael Jordan. I mean, Michael Jordan hasn't played since 2003. That's the year I graduated high school. I'm 40 years old now. I would say Michael Jordan, I mean, is as famous as ever. I mean, his shoes are more popular than ever. Every single person, I would say most people in America that just follow sports, you just say Michael Jordan. I mean, it feels like he's as famous as he's ever been. I would say the other thing is how many people do you see wearing Jordans now? I mean, they've become, listen, call me old school. It's not like I wear suits very often. I think wearing tennis shoes with a suit is a fucking ugly look. I think it's a trend that I'm just not behind. And I don't pretend to be, the trendiest individual, but I think it's a terrible look. But it's really popular. And it's just really popular. Just, I would say, Jordans in general. People wear them all over the place. Wherever you go, you see them. And I guess it's a long-winded way of saying I don't think there's much hockey can do. I think there's a weather dynamic there that's tough to overcome and won't ever be overcome. It doesn't mean like if you turn on a playoff hockey game, it's not, if you like sports and competition, it's not an incredible product. But I don't know. I would say the same about baseball and basketball. Like you turn on Knicks Pacers, it's going to be a war. You turned on Denver and OKC a lot of those games. Like this is incredible competition. And it's like we just know. Like I don't really know. I follow sports for a living. It's like the only thing I've ever loved beside like my family most of my life. And I don't really know the rules. Like icing, kind of get that. Like some penalty, high sticking. Like can you not throw the puck? Like I don't. Baseball, basketball, and football. Like I think it helps to. All these games are somewhat complicated. There are some rules. I would say most sports fans like understand what they're watching. It's what makes like trying to watch stuff you don't know. Like if I throw on trying to pick a random sport like cricket, it looks kind of cool, but I got no clue what's going on. None. You could argue that's easy to follow about golf. Like pretty basic. Par birdie or bogey. It's like hit it out of bounds, you got to rehit. Hit in the water, you got to drop. It's not really that complicated. Football is really complicated, but we've been watching for so long, we have a somewhat of a pretty good idea of mostly what's going on. Baseballs, you could argue, is the most basic. Get three outs, get three strikes, four balls. You know, you got nine guys that bat, and you just rotate. Get 9 innings. I mean, it's just you got four bases. So I think the ease to understand everything um, helps too. So I think there are probably a lot of dynamics. Again, respect hockey, but I'd be lying if I said like I was super locked in about it.